The Square Ball Podcast.
Welcome to the show. Michael, Rob, hello. If you had to pick a firm of solicitors to do wills, probate, conveyancing, a load of other stuff, dispute resolution, let's say, employment law, who would you go to?
Do you know any?
I probably... Well, I mean, I live in Yorkshire, and I'd use Levi solicitors. I'd probably pop in. But even if I'd lived elsewhere in the country, I'd probably still say them.
Yeah. And do you know why that is? Because that'd be confusing. Oh, God, they're based in Leeds. What do we do?
You video call them, I think.
Thanks for being ready. Thanks for being ready, Rob.
Sorry.
You could just book an appointment online first, probably before the video call.
Yeah.
It's like a bit unsolicited, like FaceTime. It's never a good look, is it? Levi Solicitors bring you the show. 10% discount on your legal fees. levisolicitors.co.uk/the square ball. You can use them from wherever you are in the country. Have a look on the website for full details and get in touch with them. Right, this is Propaganda then, where we find out what's been said, going on in the world of football across the last 7 days.
We listen to opposition fans, apart from today.
Yeah,
because who wants to
find me? I mean, club like those lot.
No,
there's nothing out there, is there?
Absolutely no one wants to hear what they've got to say after a win.
Did you put yourself through it?
I listened to some.
Because you were right, because we actually put a little bit of propaganda eclipse stuff into the preview of the game at the weekend, knowing full well it could go wrong, and it did.
It did. I mean, they weren't unbearable in truth, but they won, and they were like, "Oh no, Ten Hag knows what he's doing." Was the gist of it? Yeah, fine, whatever. Good, you've got a good manager. Fine.
Yeah,
very pleased.
Yeah, well done.
They famously love Harry Maguire, don't they?
Yes, yeah. There were a few frustrations at him, but because they won, they weren't too angry. So yeah, whatever.
Right, that's that bit done then. Let's move on. This is the Leeds. Should we do the Leeds mega mix right at the top? Get that one out of the way.
Yeah.
Then we can laugh at Robbie Savage in a bit. Yeah.
So the same script. I don't think it matters who's in charge. Dominate moments of the game, have 5-6 chances. Surely we can score one of them, put one of them in the back of the net. Then up the other end, sucker punch, we lose. How many games like that have we seen this year? Honestly, no one can finish. No one at all. Bamford's touch is poor. Somerville, good game, but one of those had to go in. And Ruta at the end, that wasn't a good substitution is all I'll say on that. Honestly, I fear we're going down. I just can't see who can turn us into a more efficient team up front, and I think that's the issue. We look better in the midfield, better at the back, but we can't score.
We did play very well. The shape was much better. It was very evident in the ground that the shape was better. You were right about Nonto as well. Somerville bringing him into the game in the second half by basically standing on top of him. The concern for me is that you lads talk a lot about the 9 wins and where are 5 wins coming from? That's the thing. It's the winning games that I'm not sure of. We played good stuff. We played good stuff yesterday. Where are the 5 wins coming from? And I think that's the rub. Hope I'm wrong, but that's where I am right now.
Bruno Fernandes, what a dirty rat bastard.
I genuinely don't know what's worse, the way we lost that game or Ruter's performance. To say he's 35 million just looks like a waste of money. Couldn't control the ball, took too many touches, was under the ball as well. When like Koch or Melier went long, he seemed to be always under the ball rather than getting to it with the head. I did think Bamford was shattered, so I thought it was probably the right sub to make, but in hindsight, I think we've wasted a lot of money. I think we should have got Gyökeres for less, which would have meant we could have got another left back. But before my time runs out, Junior Firpo, credit today. I thought it was brilliant.
Junior's back, baby. So, contents of that, quickly run through it. Did you hear our Aussie Jesse Marsch there at the start? Dominate moments, he said. Still can't score? Meh. We scored twice in midweek. Just didn't score on Sunday, did we?
Yeah, I mean, I think we do score enough goals. Admittedly, Rodrigo scored a lot of them, but I feel like we do score enough goals to get points if we could just stop conceding.
Yeah, I think the way we kind of get out of this relegation battle is by defending better, isn't it? I think there is goals in that team. I think of the bottom 6, we've scored the most, I think from 14 down. So yeah, as frustrating as some of the finishing is, and as certainly under Marsh, I didn't particularly like the way we attacked. It's the defending that's been the problem. And as well as they played the other day, it was that I think it was just mental and physical fatigue as much that got him in the end, and that's where the goals got conceded towards the end.
Have we forgotten how to win, as caller number 2 said? Thanks for not putting the names on the sheet, by the way, Michael.
It's all right, don't worry.
You know who you are. Have we forgotten how to win? I don't think we've forgotten how to win. It's just a long time since we have. We've forgotten what it feels like. We haven't forgotten how to do it because we could have won at Old Trafford. We could have won on Sunday, to be fair.
Yeah, we could. But we've said that a lot, haven't we, this season?
We did win twice in January, albeit. I know.
Yeah.
I know. They did win.
Teams sort of more League One-y teams than Premier League teams, aren't they? But equally, I don't think we would have... I don't think we could get any points out of this week with Jesse Marsch in charge, which I know is impossible to say. But as it is,
but hey, double down on it.
We've got
it's the internet.
Well, I mean, it's completely unprovable.
I think as well, if you shout, if you were writing it, you'd write the word fact in capital letters at the end, and that makes it more emphatic and correct.
Yeah.
Fact.
I might say no argument as well.
Yeah.
To make sure no one can argue with me.
Full stop.
Yeah.
End of.
End of is a good one, yeah. That just completely caps it off. End. That's the end. Don't reply. You can do that thing on Twitter as well now where you can turn off replies, can't you?
That's
so
great.
You could just put fact and then leave it.
Yeah.
Turn off comments on this video.
And we're writing off Jorginho Rutter after how many minutes has he played for us?
I feel a bit sorry for him here. I've seen him get quite a lot of criticism.
I mean, he wasn't great, and he did look a little bit like a lost puppy at times. But
I did see him described as a human pterodactyl on Wacko, which made me laugh an awful lot. Because he's very army, isn't he?
Yeah. He's sort of the opposite of Jordan Pickford.
Yes, indeed. I suppose the argument is maybe that we've signed the wrong player because he doesn't look like a Bamford replacement, does he? Which is the player we've been asking for a couple of years.
It's never been the player the club have gone for, though. The club have always gone for this kind of hybrid winger/centre-forward vibe. And it is, as much as, again, we get frustrated about Bamford and his finishing, he's kind of a weirdly unique player in that his strength is really good at pressing. And it's kind of, it's not necessarily an intangible. You can see it, and I'm sure someone somewhere has numbers for it. But I don't think Bamford was actually that great the other day, but he was pressing really well and he was disciplined and he was organised. And then we dropped in Rutter and he's still getting used to all that, I think. And it's maybe not his strength. And that was where it kind of, we were definitely worse once Bamford went off. But I think he was tired and
they made changes as well, let's not forget.
Yeah, that was another part of it as well.
You know, you don't play like on an island, do you? It's not just your team that plays, it's what the opposition do as well. Because that's football, kids.
No argument there.
Fact, end of.
But no, I think with Rutter, wait and see, I suppose. From what we've seen, you would have to say 35 million don't look great, but we've not seen anything, have we?
No, I mean, it's so early, and he's still a young man.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's not really of an age where most Premier League teams are even putting people in the team, are they? At 20, that's that you're generally out on loan somewhere at this point. So.
And he wasn't diabolically bad. Like, I've seen quite a few people just be, God, he's rubbish, we've wasted all this money, and we don't know yet. We might have done, but we've barely seen him.
You're basically throwing a lad who's pretty green, who's 20 years old, into one of the most kind of intense Premier League matches I've seen in a while, because it was pretty out there in terms of that, wasn't it? Like, it was there was a lot going on.
Yeah, and I mean, I've seen Edgar Charney and Habib Habibou, John Kevin Augustin. I've seen some fairly ineffective strikers.
Yeah, there was that moment that Rutter had actually where, and I know it just sounds like we're trying to jump in and defend him now, because I want to think the best of him, because he's ours. When you thought he'd lost it, he dwelt on the ball for a little bit too long, but then he turned away from two players. I thought, that was nice. So give him a little bit of time, a little bit more of that, and maybe play to some of his strengths as well, which is, it looks like he's sort of receiving the ball into feet and turning with it as well. So we'll see. He'll get his chance, won't he, in due course. I can't really say that's libelous. Just looking at the comments on the sheet, can't say that about the ref. No. Nah, I don't think we can. Let's move on to the manager chat then, shall we? As a theory has arrived. Is that right, Michael?
Yeah, pretty much. With the around the Schroeder sightings, what we're going to call them.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute, because it's absolutely wild, isn't it? Let's say the clip first then.
So about this link with Schroeder, I'm really hoping that this is just a ploy from the Three Stooges. I don't want to go on that Laetitia conspiracy theorist on this, but thought process is, we're not going to get him. We never were. But because it's looking likely now that we're going to miss out on Iraola, I'm hoping that the club are kind of putting this link out there, inviting him to the game, knowing that we're not going to get him. So then when we do, we inevitably end up with someone like Nuno or Gerrard, the club can spin it and say, oh, well, we listened to the fans. We're never going to get Schroeder. We listened to the fans. The fans didn't want him. So here you go. You can have Nuno instead.
I want to talk about Order's alternative manager list, because I get that it's not his fault if, managers aren't allowed or can't come to Leeds, say, in Iraiola's example, because his club won't let him. But you've got to question a list of 4 or 5 alternatives when none of them are available. That's not a good fucking list. I could scribble down Klopp, Tuchel, Guardiola and Pochettino as a list of backup Leeds managers. Sure, it's a great list because they're all good managers, but it's a shit list because none of them are going to come. It's not acceptable to sack a manager and then be scrambling around like this.
Fair comment?
Yeah, it's not been great, has it?
Don't think so, no. Larry, Curly and Mo, who's who out of the Three Stooges?
Well,
maybe that's for an extra ball.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we'll break it down a bit more.
I do enjoy how we will really go out of our way to sometimes give the board more credit than they deserve when there's talk of theories that they were just putting Alfred there just to kind of say, oh, look, you think this guy's bad. When actually it's just a bit of a mess, isn't it?
Given the sort of the pressure on time that they clearly wanted to get somebody in now, before the Everton game, it's a hell of a ruse, isn't it? It's a hell of an expensive ruse to fly him in, have him mooching about in the West Stand, touring the training ground and all the rest of it.
I think we've been undone by our own arrogance in thinking that we'll be able to get one of these managers. That if the list was, say, Iraola, Slot and Corberán, they probably thought, well, maybe Iraola first. Slot, I suppose he's top of the league. We might not want to come. Corberán will definitely be able to get him out of West Brom. And then pretty quickly it was all looking quite difficult.
I think the timing has massively hindered us as well. And I think maybe that speaks to where the problem has come from. And I mean, if you read the Dutch press over the last sort of 24, 48 hours, it was suggested in there, don't know how true this is, but that Orta's sort of stuck with Marsh come hell or high water and was the last one, clinging onto him as an idea that it was going to work. He needed to go sooner, if only, not for the results necessarily, but for the timing of replacing him. Mm-hmm. If there was a sense that this was not working, I would, and again, we say this all the time, but we're operating with hindsight. We're operating with the benefit of hindsight. But it was fairly clear to me from a while ago this was not working. And I said it on the Phil Hay show when Phil said it around was it the Leicester game first of all? Mm. And I felt probably it was never going to go anywhere. It was never going to get anywhere more than about 17th, was it?
That was the dream. It was always the dream. Orta's been weirdly sold on Marsh for more years than anyone, as far as I can gather, because he claimed he was talking for 2 years, didn't he?
It's insane. I don't think you can overstate what a massive cock-up this has been. Chatting to him for 2 years and being so sold on him, and then continuing to be sold on him during a year of things getting worse. And I think it was Phil Hayes' story in The Athletic where he was saying after Villa, when there was some talk in the board of sacking Marsh, and it was Orta who was very insistent that they stick with him, and then he stuck with him through the January transfer window, presumably signed targets that Marsh has signed off on himself, and the very next game after the window shuts, they sack him. And it's 2 seasons in a row now. We've backed a manager through January, albeit they didn't with Bielsa because they didn't sign anyone. And then the very next game after last season's transfer window ended in January was the Villa away game when Radrizzani decided everything's broken, we need to change something. And you just think, this is so predictable that it's happening. I mean, when they stuck with Marsh after Fulham, I think whether we said it on the podcast or not, but I remember saying to friends, they're just going to sack him in February.
Yeah.
And you think, well, at least they've got time to prepare now, even if, they don't think he's the guy. You've got a World Cup break. You've got January to prepare for.
Yeah, and
who you're going to get in.
Put yourself in the shoes of the people who might want to take the job. If you do it during the World Cup break, where everyone's got time to find a replacement, it's not that close to the end of the season. There's a little bit more distance left to run. Even if you don't, even if it's not ideal, you give yourself a far better chance and a unique chance with what's happened with the calendar this year.
Yeah, I'd have got rid certainly after the Fulham game because it wasn't working. And it had long enough at that stage. I know people will say, "Oh, well, he only had the team he wanted from this summer," but it's enough games. You've got to draw a line. You can always the defence for not sacking someone is always, well, if you'd have given them more time, it would have eventually worked. But at some point, you need to draw a line, don't you? And be like, no, this this is enough time now. Like, no more. We have got to make a change. Otherwise, there are no more games left to win. Orta's role in this is interesting because I don't know if he's just easily persuaded, but his managerial appointments have been kind of off-piste, apart from Bielsa, which I guess was in a different way. But these people who are on the face of it are unqualified, like Thomas Christensen, like Jesse Marsch, what have they said to him? And how has he allowed himself to be talked into this?
Do you reckon you could sell a car to Victor Orta?
Well, it's weird because he's got such a great knowledge of football, apparently, and yet it seems like if someone can get in his ear and talk to him about it and be like, yeah, I'll do all this stuff, and he's like, yeah, no, I agree, we'll go along with this. And Marsh must have, I guess, had maintained a hold over him to a degree to allow him to stay in his job as long as he did. It boils down to the thing about it's easier to fool someone than it is to convince them they've been fooled.
Right.
People around Victor is going, it's not working, Victor. And it's like, no, it is working. And if we just double down on it.
I said this on the Phil Hay show yesterday, which was, we did the poll on the Square Ball account, and that was just out of pure curiosity, because with Twitter you get a lot of noise and it all feeds off each other. And it was obviously 16,500 people voted, and 81% I think said that they didn't want Schroeder as the manager. Just to try and see, not scientific at all, as I said yesterday, but just to see how people were feeling generally about it. And having slept on it Sunday into Monday.
And the people who did want him, because there was an unsure option as well, wasn't there? The people who did want him it was
3%.
Was absolutely microscopic.
Yeah, and it was nothing really to do with Schroeder himself besides second-hand reports and tweets from fans of other clubs, which is a tiny sample size. But that was a judgment on Orta, wasn't it? And the regime, the wider regime.
And also it was people reading his Wikipedia page and going, he seems to be... He never lasted anywhere.
Yeah,
he's been assistant manager loads of places.
And as soon as he went from the smaller league where he was quite successful to a bigger job, he failed exactly the same as Marsh. And you think, well, that looks like what Orta does.
Yeah.
It's that thing of they had 3 years under Bielsa where Orta is on the record himself saying Bielsa sorted everything out at the club, from the academy, transfers, first team, coaching, training ground. Bielsa did it all, and we just backed his ideas. So you think, you've got 3 years, we can come up with an idea of what you're going to do next.
Instead, you spent them chatting to Jesse Marsch.
And also the idea he came up with was, we'll just copy the Red Bull thing. It's not an idea, is it?
No, it's not. I mean, there's probably a separate episode to do about the transfer market stuff with Victor Orta, because there have been some obvious big successes. Willie Nonto for £3.5 million. You can point at that and go, well, unbelievable to have got him for that. But managerial appointments have been disastrous.
All bar one have been terrible.
Yeah, like completely shit. I know you can say, oh, Marsh did keep us up last year, and he did. Fair enough, skin of the teeth stuff. But it was a margin for error, wasn't it? That there was. You play out the end of that season again, and we go down at least half of the time.
Yeah,
like individual tiny things that happened in games kept us up last year.
Yeah,
not all of it within our control. Sergio Canos taking his shirt off, for example. Jimenez fouling Meslier, things like that got us the points that kept us up. Tyrone Mings blocking a shot on the line against Burnley. There are lots of little bits you can draw on and go, well, it was such a fine margin. You can't almost take any credit for it. I mean, Victor Orta can't take any credit for it and say, well, this is the guy that saved us, because a lot of it was pretty random.
That's what makes me laugh about Southampton going after Marsh, and the reports suggesting that they're impressed with how he saved Leeds. And I'm fully aware that he might yet save them. You don't know what's going to happen there, do you? But you have to give credit to him in the sense, Marsh, that is, in the sense that he did keep us up, whether it was through luck, circumstance, whatever it might have been. It worked, and the record books will reflect that. So you've got to give him his dues on that, surely.
I suppose. I don't think he did a better job than a number of other people would have done last season.
I mean, this is why.
And I think this year he's done a worse job than a lot of people.
And just to return to what we were saying there about Orta, and it's a phrase I've used before, like he always feels like he's trying to galaxy brain the appointment, like trying to do something really clever that no one else is doing. It's like sometimes I just wish the club would do the obvious thing, and that extends into things like the kits. Just do the obvious stuff for a bit and reassure us that you know what you're doing, rather than having your child design the pyjama third away kit. I need to give credit to Universal Cucumber as well on Wacko, who suggested we let Rad's kid pick the manager.
Why not?
Point to the picture of the nice man that you want, Sammy.
Yeah, I wrote after Marsh had been sacked about a bit of a fuck off Red Bull kind of thing for the blog. But thinking about that night at Leicester when the away end turned and it seemed to be the sign that things really weren't going to work for Marsh. But the away end that night sang, "What the fuck is going on?" And I think if you do actually, maybe it's like the uber cynical view, but I think when you do add up everything that's gone on, even just since they've appointed Marsh, and it ranges from trivial things like accidentally subbing off Luke Ayling without realising, and the owner letting his kid design the kit. But I think when you do add everything up, we're completely within our rights to say, what the fuck is going on actually? Because none of it makes sense. It's all a mess. Like you go back to, you mentioned Nonto as the great success story. And it is, and he's brilliant, and I'm so happy he's here. But it was the club decided he wasn't ready for the Premier League in the summer. And then, people sometimes say now, oh, you've been unfair. Maybe they were just lowering expectations on him. But they tried to sign 5 other strikers on deadline day before they rang Willie Nonto up and went, can you please move to Leeds?
And we wouldn't have even done that had we not already sent Dan James to Fulham.
And, Kinnear's programme notes saying we're fine, got loads of goals. Rodrigo gets injured 20 minutes later, and we try and sign. We could have Joel Pirro playing for us rather than Willie Nonto. And I'd never heard of him until we were about to sign him, and I've never heard of him since. So, yeah, there's a lot of question marks to be answered. Like the new manager thing, I've not really researched any of these names that we've been linked with that deeply because they're still veering from one to the other so quickly. The most I know about Schroeder is that I found out he used to play with Clyde Vinehard in Holland. So
I look forward
get
to
him in.
Look forward to the blog article on that.
To the extent, it was Romano tweeted that he was never an option, didn't he?
It was not close. He was never close.
He was never close.
Yeah.
But that's insulting people's intelligence to say he was never close.
I wonder who is telling Romano these things. That's what I wonder. Don't
It is
you?
strange, isn't it? After he broke the news that Leeds United owner Andrea Redrazzani
I think he was used the words tall and handsome, very tall.
was pivotal in the signing of Weston McKennie or whatever. But
yeah,
don't piss on our leg. Tell us it's raining. It's the old line.
Gigantic expert negotiator.
Because he was here. He was in the team hotel. He was apparently even at the training ground. He was looking round stuff. Obviously, he was being considered.
Yeah.
Don't lie to us on this. It'd even be better if you said, we've spoke to him, we've seen reaction, we've decided probably not. Because I'm sure Redrazzani's mentions on Sunday.
Oh, they were
just, please no. Look what Ajax fans have said.
I had a look at his mentions on Sunday night. That was not a pretty sight.
No, exactly. And we know he does read these things.
Isn't it wild running a football club by Twitter opinion? It's so funny.
In some ways, it might have actually saved us this time because I think it would have been probably a disaster.
That is the funny thing is I'm saying that, but it's on balance, in my opinion, probably for the best.
Yeah, because if we do now, for example, get Benitez or Nuno or someone, a probably quite dull appointment, not what we would have maybe wanted in the first place, but it does at least seem some way sane.
Yeah.
And you can look at their record and go, oh, fine, good.
He's finished 7th in the Premier League.
Good Premier League records on there. Obviously the odd blip on it, but generally speaking, lots of success as well. Whereas you look at Schroeder and you go, well, which bit of this are you wanting him to recreate? That one decent season at Bruges, or finishing, I think he finished like 5th or 6th with Hoffenheim once.
You wanted him for the Baldies club though, didn't you?
And I feel like it could turn the tide against the Baldies.
Really?
Do
you expect some slight, when you read these awful stories in the Sun of like people like paediatricians having their windows put through and the houses being burned down,
copycat beating
because they think it's like they've seen peed and obviously got the wrong end of the stick. Would you have been victim to a copycat beating where people are torching your house in Ponty? And it's a nice house as well. I wouldn't want that to happen.
Don't set my house on fire.
No, I wouldn't want that. Not unless you really transgressed me.
Yeah, but anyway, we're not getting him, so that's good. And we'll get Nuno, who's bald.
Well, we're going to do a Baldies show this week, aren't we? About particularly focusing on Rosler. But we could talk about other handsome bald men. So that'll be the TSB guide this week, looking back on the Rosler era.
Another era, definitely an era.
An epoch. Should we talk about Jesse Marsch going to Southampton and what they think of it? Because this is delicious. I mean, no matter which way you dress it up, obviously there's going to be terror and fear that he's going to come back and hand out our arse to us on the 25th we play him at Ellen Road. But it's so funny. Just as a narrative arc, it's so funny.
I mean, you do convince yourself, because we're Leeds fans, he's going to come to Ellen Road and win. But they're terrible and he's fucking terrible. So it should be fine, shouldn't it?
Do the two cancel each other out?
I'm I'm not really concerned about this appointment. When Everton got Dyche, part of me thought, well, that's probably quite a good appointment. He's got like Connor Cody and Tarky, and he can do Sean Dyche things with them. Whereas when they were looking at getting Rooney or something, when he was linked, I was thinking, do that because he's not got the experience here. Whereas Dyche, I thought, well, he will at least make them hard to beat and organised.
He's grizzled
and whatnot. I don't get that with Jesse going to Southampton. I think, okay, best of luck.
But it's interesting looking
best
at
of luck to you.
Looking at the reaction of their fans, and there's like one I think it was like Saints Extra type account I saw was sort of saying, well, tactically he's limited versus other managers, but he's better than Nathan Jones.
Well, I mean that's the mark, isn't it? I mean that's the Nathan Jones comparison is interesting because this season, as I was saying earlier, I think there are lots of managers who would have done a better job than Jesse. I've basically looked down the league and I've gone, who would I take from other clubs? Which of these would I take over Jesse? And it was most of them, with the one exception, which was Nathan Jones.
Shall we hear from him then, the Welsh Wizard, before he was sacked from Southampton?
Yeah, so I mixed this up a little bit. So this is his pre-match press conference.
Another mega mix
with a bit of a local character from Wakefield.
Oh, brilliant!
A character in the true sense of the word. Well, maybe both actually.
Well, I mean, every local area has got a character who's sort of famed in the area.
This is a bit of Paul Sykes, bit of Nathan Jones.
The manager left, David Pleat left. My next move was then to go to Spain. No logic in that because I'm homesick in Luton and I decided to go to Spain.
Yeah, I know where it is. I've been. Nobody can tell me anything. I don't read Daily Mirror and so on. I go and have a look.
I enjoy a challenge. I want to be the best version. I could have stayed in a mining community and be a PE teacher and had a nice life. Married a nice Welsh girl and all those things. Beautiful.
I've lived in the forests of North America. I've lived in the outback of the Ivory Coast. I've lived in India and Russia. I had my breakfast in Moscow and my tea in Wood Street, Nick.
I want to test myself on every little one. That's nothing against Welsh girls, by the way. But I want to test myself. I've always wanted to test myself. I want to test myself and be a player and survive. And I knew I wasn't brilliant as a player, but I was the fittest human being in history.
I'm the only man in the history of mankind that has swum across the Straits of Johor. I had to avoid a police launch. It was either that or Changi. They've got me passport in Singapore. Yeah, I swam it. Yeah, nobody's ever done it before. Not because of the currents or anything like that. Nothing like that. It's sharks.
I thought, I'm going to cling on to this career and get as high as I can. But while I was doing that, I then took coaching badges and I learned off people. And I wanted to be the best coach in the world. That's what I wanted to be. So I learned and developed and philosophy. Then came to a point that I thought I could be a manager. So I don't go to the pub after and stuff like that. My life depends on this.
I know about sharks, yeah. I'm 6'3" and 16 stone, 200 weight, yeah, I'm swimming. These pumps were hanging around my neck when I done it, yeah. I thought, well, Jaws, how the conditioner, I know how the condition people, yeah, Jaws, boom, 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 yeah. They're just flying about. You've got to know how job works. Your sharks will have a look at me and think, yeah, I know how to do it. You punch them right in the fucking ear hole and they swim off.
But I love the pressure. I love the challenge because what else am I going to do? I'll be dead soon. I'll be dead one day.
Wow. That is remarkable, actually.
So there you go.
I know
in a different life.
I know about sharks, mate.
He'd be a violent man from Wakefield with Nathan Jones. But
do sharks have ears? Sykes, they were suggesting you punch a shark on the ear hole.
Do sharks have ears?
Do a Joe Rogan. Hey, Jamie, get a picture up of a shark with ears, Jamie.
They can hear, so...
Yep.
Yeah.
Not after Paul Sykes done with them.
That's true. Ringing in the ears. Yeah, I think they've got little holes.
Right. Push it in ear hole. So fine, yeah. There's no lugs, though. There's no kind of lobe.
No, I don't think so.
Right.
Did you chat about Nathan Jones' comments about Welsh women last week or not?
I think it was after we recorded.
Have you seen who he's married to a Welsh woman?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was his attempt at humour, wasn't it, in the press conference? Because you heard the chuckling of the other people in there, the press members.
Didn't he say he could have married a nice Welsh girl? Maybe he's married an awful one.
Although he did say he was the fittest human being in history.
A remarkable claim. Let's move on to Jesse Marsch then, the rather delicious appointment that it looks like is going to happen at St Mary's. And Total Saints then, what have they had to say, Michael?
Well, they were just discussing it. I mean, they're mainly relieved that Nathan Jones was gone. I listened to a bit. There wasn't a particularly clippable bit either, but there was. They ran a fans forum this past week at Southampton as well, just before they sacked Jones, And it was essentially just a room full of fans saying, when are you going to sack Nathan Jones? And the board going, well, we think he can do a job. And much in the same way as Leeds were saying, we think Jesse Marsch can do a job. And then they had to sack him. So that was going on. But this is Total Saints, their podcast, when they're discussing maybe appointing Marsh.
Steve, I was just like, oh, not Jesse Marsch, surely. Is it 2 wins in the last 17 games? And then he had the same. He hasn't won games in the Premier League. So I'm not convinced, but you think it might be a good appointment?
He won enough games at the back end of last season to keep an absolutely dreadful Leeds side up. When sort of under their Lord and Saviour, Marcelo Bielsa, they were free-falling straight through the trapdoor back into the Championship. So I think he did a much better job at Leeds than people give him credit for. And there is this, I do genuinely believe there is this underlying sort of xenophobia towards American, any American involvement in football. I mean, someone like Marsh has got a great pedigree. He's won trophies with clubs before. He's well versed on sort of multi-club models and working with young players and working to a kind of profit-making.
He ran out of things then at the end.
And these are all that, because obviously you never know.
He's got nice hair, good jeans. Jeans are nice.
There's never any kind of a definitive angle on these things, is there? You can never. It's like the arguments around Bielsa. Would he have taken us down? Would we have stayed up? It's never provable in either direction. So it's really interesting to hear the pro arguments there, which you've seen from some Leeds fans trying to convince themselves that this is a good idea. And it might have been a good idea. Maybe we'd have been fine.
It's partly
it's just interesting here to hear the bargaining going on. Yeah,
I was going to say it's in the same way as we a few weeks ago said you're going to get Nuno in. You'd have been like, oh, a lot of time wasting, a bit defensive. Not really for me. Whereas now you're going,
he's finished 7th in the Premier League.
Get him in, finish 7th. Seems like a nice fella. lovely shiny head, nice beard, great stuff. Get him in. And I guess there's some of that.
Lovely shiny head. Is that high on your list?
He's top, absolutely. That's why I was a slot man. But Schroeder's head was too unusually shaped for me. Didn't like that. I'd look at a flat top. You could have stuck a
plunger
on it very easily. Which maybe would be a good thing. He could have been in the dugout with it on. Have that flopping about. It'd be quite a spectacle.
Should we hear from Robbie Savage then?
So we have to.
One of those fonts of wisdom.
I'm sure he's got some really intelligent opinions to say.
Yeah, very erudite is Robbie Savage. Let's hear from him.
Well, we've seen last night after no wins in 7, they got a great draw with under 21 manager in charge. So a new manager effect that showed last night in their performance, the way they played. I think that with Jesse Marsch, they would have gone down. Listen, do I think they'll still go down? Yes, I do. 19 points. Yes, they made a good signing in Weston McKennie, but I just think that only one team in that bottom 6 has kept the manager. That's David Moyes. I think Everton and West Ham will get out of it. Therefore, Leeds, no matter who the manager is going down this season. I wish Jonesy was on to tell me to shut up.
And that was the 30-second whistle that you heard there, because Robbie was given 30 seconds to make the case for Leeds this season or against it. And
yeah.
Well, I was going to say, Michael, can you do what Robbie did there, but maybe in 5 to 10 seconds? Please?
Oh, Jonesy was here to say we're going to banter. Leeds goes down, I think. Get my experience in.
Thanks, Robbie. Thank you, Robbie.
Idiot.
Yeah, it really gives me confidence that we're going to stay up when people like Robbie Savage say we're going down.
Yeah, and he managed to get one of his phrases in there, which is it Rio Ferdinand who always does it as well. Listen, always gets used. That's one of Robbie's favourite go-to phrases.
Should we hear about someone else who has an opinion on who Leeds should be appointing?
One of our old favourites on this show. For the newer listener, Neil Warnock used to be our manager. When was it? 10 years ago he left now.
10 years.
And we're still banging on about him.
Well, he's such a great character, isn't he?
Oh, he's great. And he's, of course, has been appointed at Huddersfield.
Yeah, just for one more.
Just one more. Sharon said to me, get out of the house, please, for God's sake.
He's been
Neil.
retired since, I think he took the Palace job in
2009, 2010?
Something like that. It was a long time ago when he said it was his final job. I think he's on his 7th job since his final job.
It was before he managed us, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was at Palace he first spoke about it. I'm just going to his Wikipedia page now. So
he's managed Palace again since then.
Yes, he has, yeah.
So Palace...
It was the first time at Palace was his last job.
Palace was 2007 to 2010, and then he went back there after us in 2014.
Yeah, so that was his...
so 16,
his last job.
a maximum of 16 years ago, he was already talking about retiring. somewhere between 16 and 13 years ago.
I was 12 when Neil Warnock first retired.
Dear me. Excellent.
Anyway, this was him talking ahead of him getting the Huddersfield job, which he has now got. This is him on TalkSport talking about who Leeds should get.
Oh, great. Is it? Let me guess. Is it him?
It was interesting. Some of the names put forward for Leeds, etc. I don't think they've got to rush into it. That's why, not necessarily me, but somebody in that mould to the end of the season. I think they only need, no disrespect, but there was only one manager that could have gone to Everton, and that was Dyche. I knew as soon as he went there that they would get a lift. Because he's like me. Not like me, but a lot younger, isn't he? But pads on. It doesn't matter about tactics. They've got good players, and Leeds have got good players.
It don't matter about tactics.
It doesn't matter about tactics.
Congratulations to Huddersfield on your relegation.
That's the title of his next book, isn't it?
I mean, Sean Dyche, you can say his tactics can be a bit rough and ready at times, and maybe a bit simple, but he definitely has tactics.
Yeah, and they're very organised tactics.
Yeah.
Even if you don't like them, he does have them.
Yeah, he definitely has them. And for Warnock to say, not necessarily me, someone like me, someone in that mould, and then comparing himself to Dyche. I looked into Warnock's Premier League record. Well, he actually predates the Premier League. He's been around that long. But he's had several goes in the top division.
So right then, Notts County, which was the season that we won the league, 91-92.
Yep, he'd done really well with Notts County, in fairness. He'd got him up a couple of divisions. Got to the top division, relegated.
Right. Sheffield United 2006-07.
Relegated.
Right. QPR 2011-12.
Sacked in January with QPR in 17th. So he's probably going to take that one as a victory. They haven't won in 8 games, though.
Right. And did they go down that season?
They stayed up. It was the game where...
It's the Aguero game.
The Aguero game. So they did stay up.
Right.
It was Mark Hughes, I think, who kept him up in the end. Eventually, then...
No, it was Paddy Kenny that kept him up in the end, I think.
Well, that's true, yeah. He does then eventually get appointed to a Premier League club when Crystal Palace bring him back after sacking Tony Pulis.
From going to Pulis to Warnock. Jesus.
I know. So he's in at the end of August. By 27th of December, Palace are in the relegation zone. They've won 1 in 12. He's sacked. Gets Cardiff up 2018-19.
What happened there?
Relegated.
Right.
So Leeds should get someone like him who is almost certain to get you relegated.
Don't matter about tactics, does it?
I mean, Dyche has been relegated, with Burnley a couple of times, hasn't he? I think, because he brought him back up.
Did he really relegate him last year, though? He did a very Warnock trick of leaving just before they actually did get relegated.
I suppose so, yeah.
So, mate, there are so many people in football that talk bollocks, and say that with full self-awareness. But at least I'll admit it and not pretend I've got a clue about it.
Yeah.
We've got more Warnock, by the way, propaganda extra, a little bit of bonus stuff for TSB Plus members, some stuff over there. And the guy who got sacked from Huddersfield as well, Mark Fotheringham, we've got a clip from him that we're going to use on extra, how we?
Yeah, I just ended up looking into Huddersfield managers and came across some interesting accents.
And when was it? We had
Busy week.
Here's my job.
You say that to your wife, that was what you say to Lucy, isn't it? Yeah. We're going to do an extra ball as well, have a chat about... was it an idea that was put forward on propaganda last week?
Yeah, it was from the Man United preview, actually, weirdly, from last week, because we were covering it off. It was from the Mark Goldbridge thing. Not Mark Goldbridge, though, some confused man who was claiming that it was unfair that we'd got a point at Old Trafford because we changed manager, and you shouldn't be allowed to change manager.
Yeah, you've got to stay. If you're alive, only death should maybe kick you out of office.
Yeah, so that's what. So I've had a look at who is in charge in the Premier League.
So you've compiled an alternative Premier League of managers who would be in charge of all the Premier League clubs now.
Yes.
If death was the only way you lost your job.
Exactly.
So it's the chronologically the manager that's alive still.
So, like for example, Leeds managed by Alan Clark.
Right. Because he's from 1980. He's the manager that is still alive.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
It's a perfectly obvious thing to do.
Yep. So we're gonna do a full.
Who knows how long it'll be? Let's have a look at
15-hour, 5-part special.
We're going to simulate an entire season.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Go through fixture by fixture.
That's good. Who's the oldest manager on there? Somebody 88 years old.
The Brentford guy. What's his name?
Frank.
Frank, yeah.
Big Frank. Right, we will do all that. Look out for that in your feed, and we will speak to you soon.
The Square Ball Podcast.